Hey guys, it's Ryan here with HobbiesofaMan once again, and today we're doing another comic book issue review. Today we're looking at Ultimate Spider-Man number 13, which is probably the best issue of Ultimate Spider-Man so far. I think there were some pretty cool ones here and there previously, but they were all a lot of setting up and building up the characters. And this one really is about executing a lot of those setups, right? And getting that payoff for a lot of things, right? And it's honestly really, really great. So this is by Hickman and Chichetto, and Matt Wilson, I think, is the other guy that works on this, and really is awesome. Very, very wonderful. It opens up on the 31st of January, a whole month after, or actually a little bit more than a month after the last issue. And the black suit is on a Spider-Man who's running around the city, and he lands on a building, he trips and he falls, and you're immediately surprised because, hey, Peter wouldn't do that. He has spider sense, right? He wouldn't fuck up like that. And it turns out that obviously it's not Peter because it's Richard, his son. And the suit gets off him. It's like Picotech technology, so it like reforms into the suit. I guess it's hollow in there. And he tries to give him a pep talk in a very kind of fatherly way, right? Like Peter would, because ultimately the suit is Peter minus some memories, I guess, right? Like the suit is Peter at the time of his memory creation, and I guess it might create new memories beyond that, but they're not going to be the same as Peter's anymore, right? At that point, he will not be Peter, he will be Peter slightly differently, right? And it tries to give him this pep talk in this visage, and Richard's like, hey man, don't do that, it's really weird and creepy, do something else. So he does the black eyes, and he says, is this better? And Richard's like, you know what? That's actually worse. How about you just put your mask on? And the suit does, and he tries to continue to do the pep talk. And they talk about the fact that, Richard says, don't pretend when it's just us. And the suit is like, yeah, sure. I mean, your mom said the same thing. And then Richard's like, oh, wait, my mom? Are you like doing stuff with her? And, that's kind of like what he asks. And the suit's like, no, don't worry about it. Peter gave me 3 rules when... in case stuff like this happened, right? And those rules are, don't touch Mary Jane, protect the family at all costs, and 3 is don't touch Mary Jane. So Mary Jane is completely protected. There's nothing going to happen to her. She's not going to Peter's not going to get cut by his own suit or anything like that. It's not anything weird. But I guess it was a joke that they had to make sure that this was understood, right? And, it is what it is. They're worried about Peter, but the suit says, Peter is a fighter. He's going to get out of this. And, I agree. But also, in this version of the world, Peter really hasn't shown that he has grit and determination, right? Otherwise, he wouldn't be living his life in the way that he does, waiting for something else to really move him, right? So, I feel like that rings a little bit hollow for this version of Peter, because we know that is true, right? Peter Parker is a fighter. He is full of grit and determination and devotion and, the strength to do what is necessary. But at the same time, this version of Peter has not actually gone through all of that. He doesn't know that is the case. So it does ring a little bit hollow for me, but also maybe that is the point, right? I don't know how Hickman writes. I don't know if this is normal for him to give you this sort of thing, right? But it works out pretty well. And the suit tells us that he knows Peter is alive. He can't really track him, but he can sense that he is alive because the suit wouldn't be working the way it does if he wasn't, right? Which is pretty interesting. And the suit says that, he could have tracked Peter, but Peter didn't want the suit to embed itself into him. Like the suit could have injected itself into his bloodstream, and then that meant that it could find itself throughout the world. But because Peter decided that he didn't want that, the suit can't do it. And so this kind of leads to Richard and us as readers maybe thinking, hey, Peter should have listened to the suit. But at the same time, we know that this is what's going to turn to Venom. So maybe it's good that he didn't listen to it, right? So it's really interesting. I really like the way that Hickman plays with the dynamics that we kind of understand previously, right? So very cool stuff. I really, really enjoy it. We transition over to the Sinister Six here, where we see that they were below Staten Island. They are in the Savage Lands, which is the Mole Man's refuge from the world. This is his land or his estate, I guess you could call it, his domain. And it turns out that it's not actually the Sinister Six, it's just the Mole Man and Kraven, and they're talking, and he has the Goblin and Spider-Man in his clutches, and he has them trapped, and he's torturing them, and he got a lot of information out of them, but now he wants to hunt them, And the mole man is the one that has the domain that is bet fit for that sort of stuff, right? And so he's asking the mole man for permission to try to hunt them in this space, right? And the mole man initially is like, I mean, maybe we'll see. You're kind of making me complicit in something that I don't want to be complicit in. I know that Wilson Fisk is not going to like this, but if it's only your responsibility, if you're going to be the only one that takes, control of the situation, then maybe that's not a big issue, right? And this is when Mysterio shows up to ask the same question. Is Fisk going to be happy about this or upset about this? Because in the previous issues, Fisk has said that they rule these regions, they rule in his, or thanks to him, right? Thanks to his ability to keep them in power, right? He can easily remove them from such power if they make him angry. And so Mysterio's there to remind them of this issue, and they kind of ignore it. They're like, okay, yeah, whatever. Let's just go and see about this, right? And so we have this new scene where they're kind of in a Last Supper kind of situation. The food on the table doesn't look very appetizing. I think maybe we found what Chichero's not really good at, and that is making appetizing chicken, because it looks kind of like, it looks almost like tandoori chicken or something. Like, it has a very interesting orange-red tone, but it also looks kind of like raw. But chicken doesn't look that color when it's raw, so it's really unappetizing, and it looks kind of ugly. And I thought it was pretty funny that, he's awesome at everything except drawing, chicken very well. So it is what it is. And we see that Pete and Harry are sitting there, and Kraven actually managed to unveil their identities. He knows who they are. Harry is Harry Osborn, and the other person is Peter Parker. And Peter Parker is a nobody, and yet he is Spider-Man. He is powerful. He has abilities beyond Harry's and beyond Kraven's too. He is a physical dynamo. And this is actually kind of the problem. It's kind of unfair for them to fight. And he initially wanted Harry to fight Peter and see which one of them got out of it, right? And have them psychologically torture each other before he hunted them. But he realized that Peter would kill Harry quite easily if he had them do this way, right? And so he chooses not to. So he needs to hunt them properly in the Savage Land. And he asks for permission once again from Mole Man, and Mole Man's, you know what? As long as you entertain me, go for it. And so they drop down into the Savage Land. They manage to get the collars off of their bodies, and they run around throughout the Savage Land. They suddenly get chased by velociraptors like in Jurassic Park, and it's awesome. Pete kills one with his bare hands quite easily, and suddenly Harry's like, you know what? Maybe we're not going to be that bad off. Maybe we will survive this pretty easily. Let's go. And Harry doesn't notice that there's more velociraptors behind him. And then we get to see Pete in this very like Owen from Jurassic World kind of pose where he's holding his hands out to the velociraptors and he's like, don't move. And that's basically where this ends. And then we see in this kind of like epilogue scene that Richard in his black costume meets the Black Cat, who is here to take revenge for her father, and she has the wrong guy. But at the same time, this kind of sets up an interesting kind of concept, right? In the last issue, Richard was talking to Ben about, not Ben, he was talking to Jonah about romance. And the fact that sometimes you just gotta go for it, right? And we know that Black Cat is a younger woman than her father, but we don't know how much younger. So she might be a teenager too. She might be 17, 18, where Richard's like 15, 16. And there might be kind of a situation where the romance that Richard is looking for, the kind of place that he's trying to find himself in, is through this Black Cat, right? And so it's not Peter and Black Cat anymore, it's Richard and Black Cat. And we have this interesting new romantic dynamic that didn't previously exist in any of the worlds. And this is really Hickman stretching his powers out, right? His writing ability and his characters out in a way that is very interesting and different from usual, right? So I'm very curious to see if that's what the angle is. If this young woman is going to be Richard's age, or maybe she's like a college girl and he's like a high schooler, and there's going to be like issues where, hey, this is probably not good, but also since the dynamic is with the female character in a position of power through having be older, maybe it's not going to be that bad, or they are just the same age. I'm not really sure. It's very interesting, and I'm very excited to see what happens here, because it seems like there is going to be a bit of a conflict here, and I can't wait to see what it is, right? Because Richard is Spider-Man while his father is away. Even though he didn't really look for it, he just kind of ended up doing it. And I'm very curious to see how this plays out. So overall, great stuff. Kraven It was awesome. I really enjoyed this interaction here. Peter and Harry just fighting against velociraptors was awesome. I love all of the work that went into this. It looks amazing. Very, very enjoyable. Overall, 10 out of 10 for this issue. It was awesome. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed, and see you guys later.